growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun, winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Love upon love upon love, all hearts beating as one. Light upon light upon light, all disappear into one. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Love upon love upon love, all hearts beating as one. Light upon light upon light,
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. It is Sunday, August 1st, 2021, the first day of Reverend David Schwartz's ministry with us.
Oh.
And though he isn't with us in person due to the trials and travails of moving across the country, I know he's with us in spirit. My name is Jennifer Skinchaleski, and I will be the worship leader for today's service. We welcome all at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. If you are a new visitor, please email our office manager, Amy Zen, and let us know how you found us. You will find her email in the Zoom chat. You can also find a lot of information about the church and our activities on our website. A link to that will also be posted in the chat. Now today, we have Jen Morley with us in our virtual pulpit. Jen is a licensed counselor and the director of North Boulder Counseling. Jen has more than 2 decades of professional experience working to support children and families. She has helped adults, children, couples, and families to live lives with less struggle. Her special interest is supporting people who are facing significant change and challenges in their lives. She's also a longtime member of our congregation. So we're really happy to have you here with us today, Jen. In addition, at noon today, Jen will be offering a 75-minute interactive Zoom workshop to discuss skills for coping with the anxiety and depression that have occurred as we emerge from or move to the next phase of the COVID pandemic. And now, please ensure that your microphones remain muted and join us for worship. As we move into the more solemn portion of our service this morning, knowing the 18 months that we have all just endured and that the future is, as always, uncertain, I offer these words from Sharon Wiley. It is okay to be tired of change. It is okay to be tired of everything different. Okay to feel weary of resiliency and wholeness and learning and growth. And okay to yearn simply for rest. It is okay to be grouchy and unsatisfied and all the ordinary human ways of being that we are. Let this morning be a reminder that you are loved. Let our time together soothe what is restless in you. May you be comforted in knowing that whatever you are feeling today and other days, you are not alone. You are never alone. Come, let us worship together. If you have a personal chalice or candle near your computer, please get ready to light it. We invite you to type into the chat box where your chalice is lit, the street or neighborhood, or what city if you're joining us from outside Boulder County. For this morning's chalice lighting, we have a special guest joining via video. Now I will ask Michael if he could play the chalice lighter's greeting.
Friends, we light our chalice this morning for transitions of all sorts and the opportunity and the loss that go with them, the uncertainty that's a feature of them. I'm joining you on the road home from Colorado to a home here in Chicago that's only going to be mine for another 6 days before we move out there this coming weekend. And then all the way back between the memorial service yesterday for Carol Califas, where I could be there with you in person, all the way back here to Illinois again. I've been thinking about those transitions. That sort of change and transition isn't just a feature of big cross-country moves like that. It's something we're all experiencing all the time, in big ways and little ones. To light a chalice is to bring attention, to bring awareness, and to bring focus, often to something that's happening and going on around us all the time. So we light our chalice this morning, and I invite you to light yours for all those changes happening in your life, big and small, good and bad, and always, always, always with an unknown road ahead.
I told you Reverend David was thinking about us today. And now we invite all those gathered in your various locations to join together in fellowship and community as we say aloud our congregation's covenant. We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine.
So be it.
Good morning, my friends. It was wonderful to see Reverend David joining us and naming the challenges of change that we are all continuing to face over and over. I am sitting in my office today here at the church, and behind me are these beautiful flowers from the Flora Parker Memorial that we had yesterday. And I invite you now to join together, as many of us were here in person yesterday, and yet we're on Zoom yet again today. But this is the way life is right now. And it was a joy to be with you yesterday, and it's a joy to be with you now. So I invite you to turn inward, knowing that you are being held with whatever is happening in this community. Whether you are physically in the area of Colorado or in Chicago or in Washington, wherever you may be, you are held in this moment. I invite you to turn inward to the thoughts on your mind and the feelings, emotions in your heart. I invite you to lift up whatever is weighing on you, your grief, your worry, your pain, your love that you have for others. Let us rest with these for a few moments. Now let's turn our minds and hearts To all of those that we love, our dearly beloved people, imagine yourself just standing in a circle and holding hands with all your beloveds. Maybe it's out in nature, where the beloved earth may restore you as well. And in this container, standing in a circle, acknowledge their painful challenges and their suffering, spoken or unspoken, known or unknown. We hold each other and we hold our beloved people in our lives and our pets, our animals as well. Just feeling the love that you have for them emanating from you like a healing balm for whatever wounds them today. And feeling this love from them coming back to you, bringing you some tender healing as well. And now I invite you to share your concerns and your thoughts, your feelings, the challenges in your life for your loved ones and for yourself. I invite you to post them into the chat and I will lift up a few. I first want to lift up the family and friends of Carol Alphys, who were remembering her and celebrating her life yesterday at our worship service. What a beautiful person. She touched so many. And also the family and friends of Flora Parker, who were also joining us yesterday for the memorial service for Flora Parker. She was a Unitarian Universalist from Arizona who just moved to Boulder and was looking forward to being a part of this congregation. So we welcome her family. And our beloved Fred and Barb have passed on some information for us. Thank you for this information. They tell us that Marlise West died July 6th in hospice care. She and longtime members and supporters. Okay. And Jean Gore, another longtime member, recently died, and she was living at Fraser Meadows. Chris and Tom Zanoni share that they have concern for their son in Houston, who's among those who has been vaccinated, but who tested positive last week with a breakthrough infection. I hope he heals quickly. And Barb and Fred also tell me that we have a former member who died in a car crash on the Diagonal Highway on Monday night, July 26th. David Volmar, former husband of Angelique Espinoza. So let us send our love and thoughts and prayers and great hugs to all those who are suffering the death of loved ones, those who are ill, those who are being challenged in so many complex ways. We hold you in this container of love that is our community. Those who are suffering, you do not suffer alone, for we are with you. And I invite you to share any joys that you have in your hearts today, things that are going beautifully well, things that are worthy of celebration. I invite you to post into the chat if you would like, and I will lift some up. Lillian says that she's visiting new grandchild born on July 1st next week. Baby girl Indigo Vega. How cool is that? Laura is saying thankful to my stepmom Suzanne, who is healing from her fall, which broke her hip and wrist. Wow, I'm glad she's healing. That's too bad. Prayer for former boss Barb Day, who is now in hospice. Thank you. Our prayers do go to her. And in celebration of having Reverend David here a day early to be a part of the Caliphus Memorial, it was wonderful to see David and have him be a part of that beautiful service. And speaking of thanks, I want to thank everyone who was involved in both services. It was really incredible to come together in person and work together to create something fun and amazing and healing and heartfelt. So thank you. And for all of the rain that fell in the correct places, all the best places, and all the sunshine that's now shining in all the best places, and all the life that continues to flow. We are a part of all of it. May we remember that we are held in this love always. Thank you. Amen. And blessings. And now, my friends, I invite us to settle into our breath for a short meditation with the sound of this bell. Becoming aware of your breath. Breathing in, I know that I am breathing in, and breathing out, I know that I am breathing out. And with every breath, give thanks for one more moment of being alive. I invite you to have your feet on the ground or somehow be connected to the floor and feel your deep connection to all of life through every molecule that ever has been or ever will be on this planet. This is the great river of life. Feel it flowing through your veins as your air, the breath, oxygenates the blood in your body. Feel this river of life as the stones in the bones in your body that is made of earth. And I invite you to imagine yourself sitting on the side of a river or standing next to the river. And you move your feet into the river. The coolness, the wet, the fresh mountain water, cold as it is. Imagine every inhale that river water, the river of life, is flowing up into your body, into every cell, cleansing and healing your being. And as you exhale, the water rinses out of you like a sponge being squeezed. Inhale, rinsing and cleansing, healing and calming and soothing. And exhale, releasing, cleansing. Water is life. Feel yourself in this flow of the river as it renews and restores you by the great waters of life. Refreshed, healed, strengthened, and cleansed. With every breath, feel that flow. A few more. Let the water go wherever the soothing and healing needs to be. And in this great river of life, I invite you to hold up your hands or turn your hands upward in connection with all in our community. For we flow together in this great river of life and hold each other with love. May we each be restored through the love and the life that we share. May it be so. Amen.
Our reading today is The Guest House, a poem by Roomie. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them all at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
This life is an act of learning how to be, ever returning to the living stream of all is well. This life is an act of learning how to be, ever returning to the living stream of all is well. This life is an act of learning how to be, ever returning to the living stream of all is well. This life is an act of learning how to be, ever returning to the living stream of all is well. This life is an act of learning how to be, ever returning to the living stream of all is well. This life is an act of learning how to be, ever returning to the living stream of all is well. This life return and come on home, all is well. This life return and come on home, all is well.
Hi. Oh, it's been a long time coming. I'm seeing all these faces of people I know, and I have to tell you, I have a script, but I don't think I'm going to stay on it completely because I am just so full of energy seeing everyone. There is an Emily Dickinson quote that I'm not going to quote. I'm going to paraphrase it, but the idea is when we get what we've been wanting so long, there's tremendous grief because that is the first time we will feel how much we wanted it. Like we can truly feel the longing in the moment that we get it. In any moment before we got it, we can't feel the longing, or we wouldn't be allowed to keep we wouldn't be able to keep going. And so when I see everyone here, I'm moved. And my heart feels full, and I feel thankful for you. So I don't just feel sad, I feel tender, enormous joy and enormous sadness, because I realize, I think one of the things that happened for me, and I don't know if that relates to any of you in COVID, is I forgot what it felt like to hug other people. And I had forgot what it felt like to be in the world. And so in those moments where I was able to do that, I remember the first hug when I came back after COVID. I know not everyone's hugging, but I was in a space where I could, and I hugged someone who was not in my bubble. And I was like, oh, other people feel different. Oh my goodness. And it just it was so yummy. So that being said, I had originally named this sermon Lemons in the Juice, and I have renamed it since I wrote more about it to Reentry, Regression, and Resilience. Yeah, so good morning, good to see you. Thank you for the introduction, Jennifer. I would add, so my practice specializes in anxiety, and now the pandemic turns out, because that wasn't a previously trainable specialty. That's just what happened because people needed to talk. So I'm here to talk about the impacts and the experience of COVID. I'm guessing you might be able to guess this was a very hard sermon to write. I was like, yes, this is great. And then I was like, I have 20 minutes. Oh my God. I could probably talk for 4 days about this. I think all of you, right? Like the volumes in you, even if they're not organized into words, that you can feel the pile of information in you that's just there. And I have been so honored and privileged to talk to hundreds of people in the last 18 months between myself and my colleagues who work here. So we have just so many different perspectives on what COVID was like and has been like, and the shutdown in different pieces. So what I've attempted to do is pull like a little jewel, something that is worthwhile and tangible and only takes the time we have, but it will B, hopefully set you on the path to do a little bit more for yourself and what this is. Here's the thing. This is an invitation to inquiry. Of course, it's like our lovely UUCB words, but what we find is in anything that's this pervasive, persistent, enormous, this is bigger than, I mean, I think anything I can imagine in our current life, right? If we take time to contemplate it, to organize it in our mind, to try and figure out what's happening, which I think for myself and even a lot of people, when you even try and go toward what has happened or what's happening for you, sometimes it's just like, ugh, it's like, it's just so much. It's like, just keep going, put your head down and just keep going. So I'm going to attempt to help us get at least a little piece where it feels like there's pillars of structure where it just can hold some part of our experience to give us a bigger sense of resilience in terms of carrying what has happened to us and continuing to go through what is still yet to be seen. So that's a big call. We'll see how I do here. So let's see, where are we? That was way off script. Hold on. Okay, so resilience. Resilience is kind of what we need here. We don't get to pick anything else. COVID's not going to be not happening. We can't just finish, we can't undo what has already happened. The thing that we need is resilience. Resilience, a bit of a buzzword right now. I don't know if people know that, but it's like, I'm sure there's a hashtag if you want to look it up. What I'm talking about, resilience, is relating to whatever happened, including the devastating pain and the good stuff and all of it, in a way that you can figure out how to carry it so that you have a way forward and some part of you doesn't get forever stuck in what has happened. And the enormity of what has happened here, that is entirely possible. It's not a small thing. I know you all know this. So how do we, I mean, what's the recipe for resilience, right? If I could sell you resilience, I'm like, here's some resilience, and I could put it in a store. I mean, that'd go off the shelf, no problem. I'd be flying to the moon with Jeff Bezos, but we can't sell it. We have to make it. How do we create resilience? First, I want to talk about how we got to a place where we are called on our resilience. So some very specific things about what happened during COVID psychologically. One, real threat to our physical selves, to everyone that we love potentially, to our livelihoods, to our identity, very real threat. So this isn't like when you feel anxious that like, oh God, I'm so anxious. I don't know if I'm doing well enough at work. That's a certain kind of anxious. This is very real threat that lights up our bottom brain here. If any of you have ever talked to me, know we have the bottom brain here. That's our fight or flight area, the amygdala and hippocampus. And then we have our prefrontal cortex. There's a bunch of other stuff, but this is just a simple way to say it. When we think we could die, or people we love could die, or we could lose our home, or we could lose our job, or anything on the bottom of the pyramid in the hierarchy of needs, we light up. So that means our nervous system and our brain gets very active. And I say light up because if you looked at your brain on a fine resonance MRI, you would see it's literally illuminated. There's all kinds of neural firing happening in the scared part of your brain. That was designed by biology to be something to get us to run from lions, something that lasts 5 minutes. It's not really sustainable for 18 months or 2 years, but yet it's what we end up needing to do in this sort of thing. So you guys might be able to relate to this. Y'all might be able to relate to this. The initial, and you can feel it in your body. There's like the juices. It's literally all different kinds of endorphins and hormones that get squirted from the back of our brain. And at some point, when we create our new norms, it's less, but it does not go away until we know the threat is entirely gone. And often it doesn't go away until the threat is gone and we have processed what happened. So I call it an app running in the background. It used to be our phones, at least my phones. If you had an app on, it would suck the battery dry. You would just have a dead battery by like 1 o'clock because there was apps on finding your location. My battery's a little better than that now, but this is sort of like that. It's like this thing constantly running in the background that takes some of your life force. It's frustrating, it's sad, it's exhausting. It's not, that doesn't mean it shouldn't be. Hard as that is, it doesn't mean it shouldn't be. It's a smart thing, actually. But what it means is we have to become resilient. We have to figure out for each of us, how are we going to continue to move forward, to envision that there's a future, and to envision that it will be possible to make sense of what has happened in some way that is meaningful enough that we don't feel stuck in it. That doesn't mean we look back and think that it felt good and it was sure meaningful. It means we look back and we hurt, or we are confused, or we are angry, but it doesn't get us. The things in our life where we get stuck, when we think about them as a memory, you will feel almost instantly either in your gut or your throat, oh God, it's just awful. So what I'm looking to do is help us all figure out, how are we going to live with the difficulties that we've had and that we still may face, in a way that we can carry them, say, boy, that was hard. Boy, that hurt. I was so afraid. And those are all things that I can do, and I did them. So I want to talk about 3 pillars of sort of our identity that got shifted, so we can start to understand what was so disorienting, and part of what we're going to have to process here. So let's see, I'm totally not on script, but it's great because we're still going. The idea of prolonged uncertainty. So here's the thing. Prolonged uncertainty goes along with the real threat. So the real threat is stuff like, I could die. If I touch the wrong person, if I hug people I love, they could die, I could die. That's a real threat. Prolonged uncertainty is sort of like a little lesser threat, but does a similar thing in our head. So prolonged uncertainty says things like, we don't know what's real. We don't know when this is going to end. We don't know how this will change us. We don't know how this will change our relationships. I know this has impacted a lot of relationships. We don't know how this will change our jobs or our incomes, our health, the world. We don't know how things will be, how we will be, how life will be after this. And we will sit right here in not knowing. Not because we like it or we're real zen and we love like not knowing. You don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. You do not get to know. That is very evocative emotionally. It is another thing that usually heightens our nervous system. It is also one of the things on the side, you know, I want to tell you this really clean thing, but I also want to throw in some stuff that I've just personally seen. That not knowing and people's relationship to it is one of the things that people have commented the most with me in therapy about. Their relationship to not knowing. For a lot of folks, it starts as kicking and screaming. I don't like not knowing. I don't want to not know. And so that's one of the big things that I would invite you all to look at for yourself. What was it like initially to not know? What was your response? Where are you now in the not knowing? Because I think we still don't know. That particular thing is really hard for us. And for some people, I think inside of that, gut-wrenching discomfort was something really gentle and vulnerable and valuable. And for some people, it just continued to be very painful and still is. So we have prolonged uncertainty, and around 3 specific pillars. I'm going to say caveat again, as a therapist, I would say there's like tons of pillars, but I wanted to pick 3 things that we could say, these are 3 things we're going to look at. So these are 3 big pillars of our life and how we know ourselves. How we know our identity and just our life feels like it makes sense by these things. So the first one is boundaries. I don't mean the boundaries where you're like, you can't treat me like that. I have boundaries. That's awesome. That's a different conversation. I mean boundaries between your worlds and your identities. So we have boundaries where I go to work and I'm a different person. I hang out with my girlfriends and I'm a different person. I hang out with my son and I'm a different person. I go running and I'm a different person, right? I travel on an airplane and I'm a different person. In all of those places, and they're kind of environments and actual physical places. There's boundaries between them, not just physically, but in myself. I'm experiencing different parts of myself. Because I have all of those boundaried parts of myself, I get a very rich experience of my own existence and of the world. I feel bigger, I feel more connected, I feel all these dynamic parts of myself. And so those boundaries really make my life rich, and they make me feel connected to the world in a big way, in all kinds of different ways. So really exciting. We lost our boundaries. Lockdown, shut down, whatever we want to call it, when everyone had to go home and not go out, who you were at work, who you were with your friends, who you were with your grandkids, who you were when you were hiking, all those things had to be brought into your home. And maybe you could go to the woods. I don't know what everyone chose, but you had one or two places that you had to choose. Some identity, there was no way to keep them. You were going to lose them. There's just no way. Some identities you could smush into that whole space, but it got very confusing and muddy. And what that does is it hems us in as human beings. Think about in adolescence, when you leave, I'm trying to make sure I don't talk for 100 hours here. Can somebody give me a wave when I have like 2 or 3 minutes left? Somebody PM me here, I'm trying. When we go into adolescence, we find ourselves, right? Like we just explode and we're like, I love this, I love this. And like, sometimes you're like, I don't love that, right? We have this huge bringing out of ourselves into the world, and the loss of boundaries meant you had to rein it all back in and live here. Let me give you an example too of some of the yucky. I have a story of loss of an example of boundaries. So I'm at the El Dorado pool in my bathing suit, and I'm laying there in the sun on a bench, and somebody's like, excuse me, could you move? And I open my eyes, and it is one of my clients, a male client, and I'm sitting there in basically my underwear. This is not, does anyone know Seinfeld's Worlds Colliding? That's what this is, right? So in Seinfeld, there's a guy and his girlfriend wants to join the friend group, and he's like, this can't happen, it's worlds colliding. So in a funny way, this is worlds colliding, right? I don't want to be seen in my underwear with people that I work with. He didn't want his friends group together. And, like, I want to leave to go to work. I don't want to be at home all day. I want to feel myself be all these different things. And actually, when you mush some of them together, it gets really messy. I don't know how many times my son came in on meetings that I had, and he, sorry, that's what we had to do, right? So there was ways that this was funny and hilarious. And then there was ways that this was blindsiding. This is something we never would have imagined we had to do. So this is one of the things I would have you look at in the workshop that we're going to do later. If anyone, whoever shows up for that, we're going to look at this more closely. Where did your boundaries change? What were the choices that you made? What were the choices you didn't make and realized later you did make them or didn't have a choice? So your boundaries between selves and your world. The next one is routines, right? So the other thing that keeps us going, keeps us feeling sane, is the routines in our life. So how you get ready to go out of the house, where you go. On Tuesdays, I go grocery shopping. On Saturday, I go hiking. Once a year, I go to see my family here. And once I go to see my husband's family there. These are just routines that we have, and we have built them, for most of us, quite intentionally. We have built them because they feel like an expression of us. They are how we be who we are and engage in the world from that point. So our routines also were put into the box of your house, and they had to fit in your house or the 1 or 2 other places that you could go, whatever that was for you. Again, a lot of this is loss. It's just a huge, enormous amount of loss, disorientation, grief, anger. I had a day in COVID where I was like, I think I'm going to go lift weights to really angry music. And I was like, I want to be really angry right now. I do not want to be gentle. And I'm like, So figuring out for us what the routines were, looking specifically at what you chose, that's a lot of information, what you didn't choose, and how you felt about the loss of choice, the choices you had. What was your relationship to your routine changes? For some people, the routine changes were horrendous. I have spoken with mamas who were doing their work before their kids got up and after their kids went to bed, and then teaching their kids all day, and then still doing what they needed in the house because the other spouse was busy doing a 40 or 50-hour work week too. And so that's just how it worked. And then I've spoken with people who's like, this routine is awesome, and I am never going back to my office, right? Like, I take an hour and a half hike every day. Like, I just love it. So for all of them, the routines that we came up with is a lot of information for us. Even if tomorrow the gates go up and, we know this isn't going to happen, but if we could flip a switch and it's all done, the routine you have now to the routine you had before, what would you choose? What would you unchoose? What do you know now that you didn't know before about your routine? The last one is ritual. This, I think, is a pretty raw one for some people. So rituals, I think when I think of rituals, I would usually think like candles and singing. I mean, weddings, funerals, birthday parties, pride parades, your ladies' trip to Mexico, whatever it is that are the rituals, because rituals are the thing that are bigger than routines. They connect us to something bigger than ourselves. They connect us to meaning. We need truth and we need meaning. We have to have both to have a sane life. And so when we lost our rituals, the ones that were already embedded in our life, what I saw is the people who had less distress were people who figured out other rituals, even if they were ridiculous. I had a ritual that every Tuesday I made toast with blueberry jelly, but it became that would be a routine. I guess the ritual would be making the jelly. Do you know how many people made bread during COVID? Like, it just became something that felt sacred. It was like feeding people. It was a beautiful thing that felt maybe magical. When our worlds had gotten so small, we just made up random things. I loved hearing from people. I don't think most folks didn't know they were creating rituals, but it was the impetus in us to survive, to thrive, that people made rituals. So here we are. We have all of these 3 pillars. And I think everybody figured out how to have some kind of pillar. It might feel like a popsicle stick currently, but we have something. We're upright and we're still going. So for that, bravo. I think for even just take one moment right now for yourself and notice how hard you've been working. Notice what a good job you did. Just give yourself a second. Maybe even think about the person that you've spent it's like, what is it, 600 days with now? If you're coupled in a home or whoever your bubble is, maybe think how they did a good job too, even though you might want to punch them right in the nose, right? Think about this has been hard. Even in a way, it's this hard that's just relentless. But it's been more than just hard. And so that's the piece where, let me see, I want to make sure I don't miss really big stuff. I'm almost done here. So that's the piece where we get resilience that is pretty powerful. So let's see, let me make sure I have this last piece. Okay. We have all these pillars. We are looking for resilience. How do we get resilience? I got to get to the last page here. Thank you guys for working with me here. I noticed Jennifer did a really nice job of looking like she was looking at the camera, but also being able to read. That was very fancy. Okay, so what do we do now? We have the pillars, we have prolonged uncertainty, we have these real threats. How do we build resilience? So first of all, we have to figure out what is happening. So that is, you feel into yourself and say, what's happening? What we're going to do there is a really nuanced thing that is tricky because it can come off as spiritual bypassing, which means you say, I'm so zen, I don't feel pain. you're wrong and you're lying. You're avoiding pain. So what we want to do is, and when I check in what's happening for myself here in my gut, myself and my life, where's my stress, where's my anxiety, where's my joy, where's my everything, we're going to go toward the icky stuff first, because that's, if we can free up the ball of twine there, it's what will give us the space to also go into the beautiful things. So the icky stuff first. What is painful? What is uncomfortable? So here's the thing. Our brain, anytime we feel uncomfortable or we don't like something, our brain tells us there's a problem. And even we can go into the psychology of this, usually goes into, and it has to be someone's fault, but we don't have to go into that right now. So let's see. Like I order groceries and the wrong food comes. Like my kid's not going to eat that. So now I don't have that food. That is annoying. It's not actually a problem. So because there's so much distress here, trying to take, I don't like that, as something that we no longer get that worried about, because we have real things to worry about, like really rough stuff. So that we have only, let's say we have bandwidth every day, you have this much energy to give to your life. We're already just giving away this much just because COVID is still going on. That's just gone. So you have this much left. We need to be very discerning about how we use it. So the things that hurt, things like I didn't see my niece, who was brand new baby. My sister's child, I did not see her until this summer, and she was 18 months old. That makes me really, really sad. It's not just that I don't like it. It makes me sad. So that's something I need to attend to. I don't like that I can't travel as much because I love backpacking all over the country. That makes me sad. But most of that is I don't like it. So there's this much I don't like it, and the rest of it is me being like, So it's trying to pair off what of each thing is really needs to be taken care of. So it's not just saying, well, too bad you can't travel, suck it up. It's saying, well, there is a piece in there that does need attending to. But then the rest of it, we kind of have to be like, right? So, okay. There's another piece to this. Let me find it. Prolonged. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. So the next piece is fighting for, we have to fight like hell right now. This is just the thing. Rest when you got to rest, because you know you're going to have to rest. Do not rest all the time. That is depression. Depression is essentially the definition of COVID. Depression is isolation, having a small world, feeling like there's not a lot of possibility. Does that sound like COVID? That's the definition of depression. So if you're feeling depressed, you are sane. You are very sane. And it's going to be a hard fight if you want to feel something else. On the days when even if you don't feel depressed every day, if you're having a day that you're feeling depressed, that's probably a really reasonable response to exactly the conditions that create depression. So if you want to feel something else, you're going to have to fight like hell, like a salmon swimming upstream. That's what it is. So you be sad on the days you need to be sad. You be mad on the days you're going to be mad. And on any days you have any energy, you fight like hell for your boundaries. Make some kind of boundary, go out and do it, make it feel like you're in one of those worlds that are special to you that you miss. You go out and you do a ritual. You actually, for some of you may or may not have done this. It was all over the internet in a way. I think that was a little much for people, but writing out your routine for the day, that was a lifeline for some people. And the last thing is, I would say, more important than probably any of this, don't do it alone. The isolation that has been fundamental to COVID is poison. So I'm happy for anyone who didn't have to do this alone in their home. Having one or two people, great. But still, when I say don't do it alone, I mean, go get your people. If you have to gather in a field 10 feet apart, you gather in a field 10 feet apart. We are fighting for our well-being. We are fighting to be able to walk away with this, with our heart, all the pieces of our heart, even if they're not stuck together. At least we have the pieces and we can get them together later. This is the number one thing. And when I came here this morning, I felt a fool that this is how I was going to end, because I have not gathered with all of you. So good for you that you gather here. This is absolutely one of those things. And then the other piece is gathering wherever you can. Before I go, I would just want to quickly speak to the part about reentry. There is a whole nother lots of thing we could do about reentry. It's a really big deal. The way that this lights up our brain, the real threat in COVID lights up our brain, also lights up a lot of the traumas we've all had in our own life. If you're already anxious or you're already depressed, it usually blows that up bigger too. So we have taken these hyper aroused nervous systems that have just been like, when COVID started and people said, I can't wait till this is over, I'm going to hug everyone. I thought, no, you're not. It's not going to feel like that. It just doesn't feel the same for everyone because it's lighting up different things in your whole body and the history of your life. And it's just complicated. This is in the fabric of our existence and our identity. So I just invite us all to be so gentle with each other upon reentry and then unreentry and however this is going to go. We have no idea what this is like, really. Like I gave these 3 pillars and this stuff, but what it feels like as a human in each other's body is really different, and it's massive probably for everyone. So even when someone's doing the wrong thing, well, first of all, the bandwidth, we really shouldn't be putting too much of our energy on what other people are doing because we don't have enough energy, but also having the grace to be like, I have no idea what's happening in that person's life. And for you to feel like you get the same. You have the right to be as strange and kooky and unprecedented as this COVID pandemic is. This is weird and like nothing else. So go do weird things, do whatever you have to do to fight for your well-being. Okay, my dears, thank you so much for your time.
For the month of August, all contributions to our offering will be used for the benefit of UUCB and its programs. As we look forward to being together in person once again, our continued financial support of the church is as important as ever. You can make a donation now using the link posted in our chat, by sending a check to UUCB, or by scanning the QR code on the next slide with your mobile phone and submitting a contribution online. Please be as generous as you can. We will now receive the offering. May our gifts be used to strengthen our church as we embark on the next phase of our journey as a community of faith.
Go your way in peace, wander as you may. Blessed is the path you take, may love guide you on your way. Go your way in peace, wander as you may. Blessed is the path you take, may love guide you on your way.
Thank you all for joining us today. And thank you, Jen, for your presentation this morning. I will remind everyone that anyone who wants to participate in the workshop with Jen, it starts at noon. We will close down the this Zoom meeting after our coffee hour, and we'll restart it so you can join in on the workshop at noon. And we do now invite you to stay with us in our Zoom room for fellowship and discussion. I think Barb and Fred are here. I actually can't say.
Yes, we are here.
They're here.
We are here.
I am Barb Richards and Jen Morley. I love you. Sending you tons of hugs. Thank you.
And I'm Fred Cole, and I echo that. We missed you too. So, but yes, and if you think you had to sign up for her workshop at noon, you can go to the note you got this morning from Amy, and you'll find the link there also. So if you decided at the last minute, you can still do it. So anyway, I think, Ray, you're going to break us out.
Yes, I am.
Okay, well,
I
everyone.
think what we'll do is we'll just do the one session today.
Okay,
So that gives us time to get to Jen's breakout or Jen's session.
yeah, give us a little break before we start again. Okay, wait for your invitation. We'll see you all later.
So it looks like they are being populated now.
Oh, we don't want to.
It's not
I don't want to
supposed
be
to be.
recorded.
It's not supposed to be recorded now. Oh, well.